The new update added a handful of new transformation items to the game that are absolutely amazing. Today I'm going to talk about how to get them, as well as how they will change the game, especially for the adventure map and minigame scenes. Dinos, rats, bats, and fairies lie up ahead, so let's jump straight in. Greetings friends, Khaios here. 1.4.5 has brought us some of the most fun and interesting tools for us to use when designing adventure maps in the form of several new transformation items. Today I'll be going over what they are, their unique properties, and how we could potentially use them in unique builds or adventure maps. On the topic of adventure maps, I'm really in the mood to build some of my own, but I also want to play some of yours. If you all work on adventure maps, be sure to upload them to the Steam Workshop. In fact, if you add the hashtag Khaios, I'll be able to find them more easily. In a month or so, I plan on browsing the workshop for some of the most highly rated adventure maps to check some out in future videos. I look forward to seeing what you all come up with. Now, all of the transformation items are types of mounts, and they are going to add so many more possibilities to our adventure maps. One transformation item we already had was Lilith's necklace, which turned us into a wolf. It's very cute, seeing as how the mount's animation uses tools in the mouth. The developers Rediget and Senex added this item for their daughter Lilith. This update brought us another one that's similar to that. Slasher's mysterious skull, which is the equivalent for their son, turns you into a dinosaur that can fly by use of a tiny pterodactyl. It also uses tools and weapons in its animation. You can craft Slasher's mysterious skull with 20 sturdy fossils, 5 amber, and 5 fallen stars at an anvil. Unfortunately, Lilith's necklace and Slasher's mysterious skull do not change our hitboxes. It might look like this wolf should be able to fit into a 2-block gap, but it can't. But the other transformations can change our hitbox. Before we get into that, if you've been enjoying these videos and you're finding them helpful, tell the AI YouTube overlord that I'm doing a good job by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads. Now let's check out some of the more interesting unique transformation items. In the 1.4.5 trailer, I made a tiny build to show off this transformation item. This is the cursed Piper Flute, and it turns you into a tiny rat. You can find it in the jungle within ivy chests. When you are in the rat form, you run fairly fast and jump decently high. More importantly, you can climb up walls by pressing up and slide down walls when you're not moving up but directing your movement into the wall. What's even more interesting is that you could fit into 1-block spaces with ease. This rat is so small that you could fit into places that we normally can't reach. If you try to use weapons or tools, you'll be taken out of the form and you'll turn into your normal self. The mount does work in all liquid types, and you'll even stay as a rat when you're being shimmered. While you can take fall damage as a rat, it is substantially reduced, almost to the point where you might as well be taking no fall damage at all. You can also interact with chests and other items such as levers and doors without leaving the rat form. Another interesting feature with this mount is that when you're in a small space and you try to turn back into your normal form, you won't be able to at first. If you try this 3 times in a row, you will be teleported out of the block and placed in a nearby spot where your character can fit. If there isn't a valid location that you can fit within range, you'll be teleported back to the spawn point. The rat also doesn't slide on ice, as if you're wearing ice skates, though you do still break thin ice when jumping on it. We can also augment this rat form with a few accessories. Climbing claws and shoe spikes will allow us to hang on walls without sliding down, as will the upgrades for those items. Also, this mount looks pretty cute when you have a finch staff equipped and you have a tiny bird just sitting on your rat's head. Need I say how useful this will be in an adventure map? The ability to fit into a 1-block gap alone is absolutely a game changer for adventures. We can lock off areas of a map that players can't get into because they can't fit until they get the cursed Piper's Flute. The rat's ability to climb and slide down walls makes it even more useful for adventures, and I'm sure you all can come up with ways of using the teleporter feature when you try to dismount as well. This tiny form makes me wish that we had a tiny furniture set to accompany it, but I digress. Let's take flight and check out another transformation item. Are you feeling enchanted? Now we can turn into a fairy ourselves, or more accurately, a pixie. This is the Enchanted Pixie Dust, a transformation mount that can occasionally be dropped by pixies in hard mode, but only after you've defeated at least one mech. Fun fact, if you have a character named Khaios, the pixie will be black, releasing green and white sparkles. Just like the rat, this will allow you to fit into 1-block gaps, except this one, not surprisingly, makes you fly. Not only do you have flight, but it's infinite flight. Actually, it's probably more accurate to call it hovering, as you don't fall when you're not pressing the spacebar. Visually, this pixie is tiny. In fact, you'll be approximately the same size as a Finch summon from that Finch staff, which makes it look especially odd when you use that summon. This form isn't the fastest, reaching only 23 miles per hour. Surprisingly, the movement speed is the same whether on the floor or in the air, which means against the floor you can be sped up or slowed down by conveyor belts. And though conveyor belts can influence it, ice won't, as it won't slide around, and it can't break thin ice. Since it can't fall, it can't take fall damage. The mount also works in all liquids and can be pushed through shimmer without losing its form. As with the rat, you cannot use tools or weapons without transforming back to your human form, and you'll be teleported to a nearby space or spawn if you try to dismount in a small area. Additionally, this form can also be augmented by a couple of accessories. If you equip a tabi or master ninja gear, you'll be able to dash while in flight. This can be really helpful with the form's mobility due to its slower speed. But if you instead equip a Shield of Cthulhu, you will gain the shield's ability to do damage on contact, which could be useful for adventure maps. Unfortunately, you cannot have both the long dash of the tabi or the damage from the Shield of Cthulhu at the same time, but both of these can be really useful for adventures or mini games. Obviously, this will have a lot of utility for those kinds of maps. We have fitting into a 1-block gap, the D-transformation teleportation, infinite hovering, the dash. If you're making an adventure map that has progression, this could be a very interesting upgrade item to the cursed Piper Flute in that map. The drawback to the infinite hovering is the pixie's slow speed, which means you can design puzzles for players to solve using multiple forms and accessories in combination. But there's one last transformation item that I want to look at today. The final transformation form that we have comes from the Amulet of Night. It is a drop from vampires that spawn during a solar eclipse, and it turns you into a bat. Functionally, this is very similar to the pixie. It has infinite hover, it can't fall or break thin ice. As with all of the other transformations, they work in all liquids, and you can be shimmered with it, and you can't use tools or items in this form, but it's not exactly like the pixie. This is the only new transformation item that could fit in a 2-block gap, which makes it even more strange that Lilith's necklace can't make the wolf fit into a 2-block gap. But anyway, this form is a little bit bigger than the pixie, so it requires a bit more space, which means it can be an interesting way of giving variety to adventure maps. Like the pixie, it can dash with the tabi, and it can dash attack with the Shield of Cthulhu. The dash has an amazing animation, and the bat also has a great looking landed animation when you're against a block. The only thing that I wish is that this mount had more speed. I want to love it because it looks phenomenal, but it's just a slight downgrade to the pixie due to its size. There's no benefit over that pixie. It's just bigger. It would be amazing if this form was a little bit faster at the very least, so that it could have more utility in an adventure map against the pixie. Maybe this mount could even have a natural built-in dash attack, so you could combine it with the tabi to get a long-reaching dash attack. At least then it would have an edge over the pixie. Regardless, I love the way this mount looks. When designing an adventure map, I would probably pick either the pixie or the bat for the map depending on the theme of that build, and probably not include both in the same map. That said, if I did want to use both, I would have to give the bat first and the pixie last, because there's nothing that the bat can do that the pixie cannot. If I give the pixie first, obviously it could fit into a 1-block gap, which means it could fit into a 2-block gap, so there would be literally no point to giving the bat after they have the pixie. So I think the only way to give both items would be a progression that ends with the pixie. And that's going to do it for all of the new transformation items. I really like that Relogic is diving into this, and I hope that they do more in the future. Speaking of the future, I'm going to be working on a video with my 1.5 wishlist, or what I would do if I was in charge of the next update. If you want to catch that video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you don't miss any of my content in the future. If you would like to support my channel in a more direct way, please consider becoming a channel member or a Patreon supporter using the links in the description for various rewards, including world downloads and access to my Discord server. Or you can leave a tip in the digital coin jar by clicking the thanks button. A huge thank you to everybody who does support my channel. And a special thanks to my biggest supporter for the month, Kasu. And be sure to check out my channel artist linked in the description below. Thank you all very much for watching. Be back soon with a new video. Happy building.